Here we are. Uh, I don't really know where to start. Flashback Fridays. Somebody suggested this in my group, so I'm going to give it a shot, see what happens. I don't know how long this will go on for, but I love to go back and look over my old writings. I have a group on Facebook called No BS Ecommerce. I write there probably 360 days a year without going back and counting, maybe 359, 361. I don't miss many days a year. And those that follow my diet, I'm still drinking water. This is a seltzer water from Walmart. So what I want to do with this is I want to try and go back in time and think about things and look at things and really try to develop a different perspective going from where I am now, looking back to where I was. In 2006, in 2016, I had one goal that I obsessed over, man. It's the only thing I talked about. It was the only thing I focused on. It was the only, I ate, everything I did was about that one goal. In 2015, I probably had done just over, if I remember, without going through my taxes and stuff like that, I had sold approximately $500,000. My whole everything drove me to double the size of my business in 2016 to $1 million. $1 million in gross sales, which is astronomical looking back. And the amount of mistakes that I made and the things that were so messed up, things that I did so wrong. Looking back, it is what set me up for all the struggles that I'm having now. In 2016, the wholesale formula was coming out. Gurus were just starting to hit the Facebook groups. Chris Green was the godfather, the OG, the original gangster of this kind of stuff. It was a time much different than now. I was doing a lot of RA sales, which was retail arbitrage. I had some wholesale accounts. I was drop shipping, but this wholesale formula came out, and it was two guys. It started with, I don't know what it was. They started with a small amount of money, and they blew this business up to do $6 million in a year or something. Just unreal numbers. And how they did it was they found good selling products on Amazon, and they shotgunned out emails to these different suppliers of that product. Long story short, I didn't really follow their process, but I got very involved with the group. And it's where my writing really took off. If you were a member back then, you seen every day I was writing about what was going on in my business, the problems I was having, the successes I was having. Everything was about building to a point that I was able to do $1 million. That was my goal for 2016, was $1 million. In early December of 2016, there was some commotion in the wholesale formula, and we were told when we originally signed up for it, we were told that we would get everything that ever came out with the wholesale formula. We would get it included in the price if we bought in early, and I did. Um, and I bought more for the networking than their processes. I had what I thought was processes in place. Looking back, man, I had nothing in place. But we got into a big tiff, and I called them out in the middle of the group um, that they weren't honoring the deal that they had promised. So they refunded me my money and kicked me out. When they kicked me out, I lost all my writings. Eventually, they copied all my writings and gave them back to me. Uh, so Dan was a stand-up guy through that, and he did do that for me, and I appreciated it. So if you read the description was my first post in my new group in Facebook back in 2016. It was December 10th. I had just been kicked out of a second group on Facebook. The first group was Nate McAllister's group. They swore up and down that I was there to sell a guru course. I had no intentions of selling a course at that time. I still have no intentions of selling a course. I kind of like this more. I kind of like going back in time and talking about the things that were going on. So back then, there was only 3 or 4 members in the group, but I had convinced myself that writing in the wholesale formula was very, very therapeutic for me. And if you read my writings over the years, you've watched me solve a lot of problems with my writing. You've seen me grow through my writing. So trying to set this up for you so that you understand where my thinking was at the end of 2016 when I started all this writing. I have 3.5 years of writing in one group of Facebook, and it's still there. I mean, you can scroll all the way to the first post like I did and read every post. It would take you a long time to read everything I wrote. My writings are long. That's a very short writing compared to what I write now. Sometimes I can write for an hour and a half about things going on in my business. So this writing took place in December, the end of 2016. It was, I believe it was the 18th of December that I actually woke up. No, it wasn't let me see if I can find it. It was around then. I mean, it was very early. It was very early in December that I had 900. I'll never forget it. I woke up that morning with $999,000 in sales. I was $1,000 away from hitting $1 million in sales. And you got to understand, this is the first time that I've ever hit $1 million in sales. And I had said for many, many years that the internet was going to make me money. And that one year I would hit $1 million in sales. And everybody thought I was out of my mind. You think they think I'm crazy now? Picture in late 80s, early 90s, late 90s, me saying that I was going to hit $1 million in sales one year. I was homeless, sleeping under the boardwalk, telling people I was going to do $1 million on the internet some year. People thought I was freaking nuts, man. They thought I was crazy. But I believed it. I believed it all those years. So in 2016, in December of 2016, um, a whole lot of things were going on. I wanted to do $1 million in sales. I wanted to have a hands-free business. And if you have followed me over the years, you know that I'm still struggling with the hands-free retirement thing. In the writings, I talk about my retirement. December 10th, we're probably about 80 days away from Lori retiring. She retired February 1st, 2017. We went on the road in our RV. So now I'm also trying to build a business that's totally independent, location independent is what I was saying back then, location independent, because I was going to be traveling. I had to worry about internet. In the last 4 years, in the last 3.5 years, there's been a lot of issues with internet. But I was so focused on that sales number of $1 million. And I did make it. I did sell over $1 million that year. And I was very proud of that fact that I had sold $1 million. If you've never done it, it's a big feat. It takes so much to get to that point. Now I look at it and go, wow, man, that's nothing now. I do that in just over 3 months now. But back then, I'd never done it. I didn't know. I didn't have it. I had no clue about money. I had no clue. I wasn't worried about profits. I wasn't worried about debt to income. I wasn't worried about. I wasn't worried about anything. I really wasn't. The only thing I was worried about was hitting that $1 million mark. That was my whole driving factor. I didn't worry about labor cost or shipping cost or none of that. All I wanted to know was sales, sales, sales. If there was a problem, sell more. It solved the problem. And if you've been following me, you know that I pushed that for a long time. It took a very long time for me to it took me a very long time for me to get to a point where I looked at other things. Right away, later in the month, I was doing some reading on some of the other, the rest of just reminiscing through there. I was reading about all the problems I had. Inventories at zero, major money issues. I didn't understand cash flow. I didn't understand that money coming in wasn't money earned. I didn't understand billing cycles. I didn't understand inventory management. I bragged a lot at the end of 2016 how I was retired. That my wife and I were going to retire, and this was our new way. And we flew out to Vegas for Christmas and celebrated $1 million for the sales. Brought my brother in to Vegas so that he could enjoy Christmas with us, and we got to see his new baby. my niece Kira, and but I talked a lot about how I was gonna, I had this company that I owned, I didn't work in, and how I was gonna do this and how I was gonna do that. Looking back, 4 years of time have elapsed, or 3.5 years of time has gone by for that, and I was so oblivious to what reality was. Um, and I got a few doses of reality through the years. I mean, this is this isn't a one-time show. I really want to save some of the stories. I have so many stories, but I remember waking up to 999,000 in sales, not hitting the million. I went to bed knowing that I was going to be at a million. In fact, I think I went to bed at 998,000. You got to understand, this is Christmas time. Sales are flying off the shelf, but my inventory was extremely low. What I had left to sell was extremely low. Uh, so I woke up and it wasn't there. Um, I had never sold $10,000 in a day. That happened in 2017. I was having a great sales month. I was almost, I believe in my writings, I talk about having $175,000 sale month. Man, that was huge. That was huge. $6,000 a day on average is what I was selling. That was, those numbers were not many people were doing those numbers back then. A lot of people talk about it now. You hear a lot of people talking about big sales numbers and stuff like that. I don't show my numbers very much anymore. A lot of people think it's an ego trip, but then you get into questions of profit and blah, blah, blah. I just remember I wanted this to be a business. I didn't want this to be a job. I wanted it to be a company. I wanted to be the president. I wanted a vice president. I wanted it to be a corporation. I wanted it to be something that I could pass off to my children. At the time, I wanted my children to be involved. They don't want nothing to freaking do with it. All they want is a check. All right? But that's a whole nother subject. But I felt by doing $1 million in sales, I was going to be able to retire. And it didn't happen, guys. It really didn't happen. I was so far from retirement that because I didn't see that I was so far from retirement, it took me a long time. 3.5 years now, guys. And I'm hoping at the end of this year that I don't have to work. All right. I still work. I don't work a lot. I am in the Tim Ferriss 4-hour-a-week group. Now I work less than, technically, I find a lot of things that I call work that really aren't. My writing in the morning, I call that work. Chit-chatting with my vendors, I call that work. It's really not. They're my friends now. We talk more about things friends talk about than we talk about what people that buy and sell stuff to each other talk about. My last conversation with my vendor was about where he invests money and how's he secure his future, and what kind of advice did he have for me personally with that kind of stuff. But getting back to that time in December of 2016, when I just about hit $1 million, it was I was a different person. Man, my ego had me pumped up. $1 million in sales made me a big deal. Now, mind you, I had a lot of people working for me. But I had a lot of freedom to move around on a short leash. I couldn't go far. I worried about the business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know how much I sold yesterday on Amazon. Um, I haven't looked at the numbers for yesterday. I'm going to guess that they're the same as what they, where they should. They're right in the range that they should be in, but uh, they're really. It's not important anymore. Back then, I thought I knew a lot more than I really did. If I really took the time to see all the problems that I was having, truly was having, I would have realized I was in much bigger trouble than I thought. I thought selling $1 million was the catch me out, that it was going to put me on easy street for the. It not only was it going to put me on easy street and my wife on easy street and our lives on easy street, but by just hitting $1 million, I believed my business would be on easy street. That's some real screwed up thinking, guys. Um, my systems my systems were good for a $500,000 company. They were nowhere near where they should have been for $1 million sales company. My security sucked. I'm very thankful that this phone was left in a car in Vegas. There was over $500,000 available between Amazon loans, payouts, inventory, and credit card balances that were available in unsecured, wide open apps on the phone. I knew nothing about securing the phone and the apps and signing out of the apps. My bank apps, you just clicked on it, it opened up, and it showed you the balance. You could make transfers, whatever you wanted. And I left it in a taxi cab. I paid a guy $50 to drive around 5 blocks to bring me the phone back, just so that I felt better. It was everything I had. I mean, somebody could have wiped me out very quickly, and I was in a foreign town like Las Vegas where it's not easy to get all this straightened out. If you have any questions, ask your questions in the comments. I just remember times were different back then. A lot of people say, "Oh, how'd you do it?" I can tell you right now how I did it. You couldn't do it again today. Times are different. I'm not saying that it can't be done. That's far from what I'm saying. That's not the case at all. What I'm saying is how I did it is so much different than how it's done today. Guys, I haven't created a shipping plan, and this isn't bragging. This is where I've built my business to. I haven't built a shipping plan in probably in the last 2.5 years. I don't know how to build a shipping plan. We don't even use Amazon to build a shipping plan in. We use our Restock system. It's called Restock Pro. We use that to build our shipping plans in. I've never built a shipping plan in Restock Pro. Just don't know how to do it. Back then, you could hustle with a phone, a credit card, and Walmart and Dollar Tree and a couple stores. You could hustle some serious money. Now I've been in stores with people that are just starting out going, "Hey, scan this," and they're like, "Oh, we're restricted." I'm like, "What?" "Here, scan these beans." "Oh, we're restricted. We're gated." "Here, scan this toy." "Oh, we're restricted. We're restricted." I've never been restricted on anything. I am restricted on Legos right now, which kind of, there's two things that I wish I was ungated in that I'm not. One is Legos, because I love to work with um, uh, retired Lego sets, and the other one is Starbucks. I love buying Starbucks mugs from all around the country. I do sell them on eBay, but they bring so much better money on Amazon. And living in an RV is kind of tough to do that. And for those that are new, this background you see is real. Um, I live in my RV. My wife and I live in our RV. We are in Bullhead City, Arizona right now, on top of a mountain. We look down. If I go outside, I look right down to the Colorado River. Across the river is Nevada and Laughlin, Nevada, and there's 9 casinos, which my wife loves. Back then, it was different. It wasn't easier. I think people that are new today have a much easier time than back then. There's so much more information now than what there was back then. There's so much data out there. There was no Keepa and all that. To the degree that they have now with the sales rank and all the data that's given today is just so much further. I just remember, I really enjoy. I'm really going to start enjoying this. I just remember how perfect I thought everything was going to be the next day when I woke up and I had $999,000 in sales. That I was going to break that $1 million mark, and that I was going to be on Easy Street. But not only me, but it automatically made my business become easier. And it didn't. It actually made it harder. Amazon lending started to play a role, loaning me money. I was doing wholesale. I had taken on, for ego boost, I had taken on an investor. I had just split with my investor at that time. Shortly before that, he stole my right hand from under me in early 2017. Now I still had a right hand. It was shortly after I had left to go to retirement. Everything I did back then was about my ego and about that $1 million in sales. I walked around with a pretty big chip on my shoulder. And when I hit that $1 million mark, the chip got a little bigger. And things didn't get easier. I started to crash and burn after that. I started to depend on people that I shouldn't be depending on. My systems that were designed for 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 in sales were blowing up on a regular basis. I did not know how to manage money, so I started blowing up my cash flow. A lot of problems I was getting ready to have in 2017 as I went through looking forwards from hitting that $1 million in sales. It was this high. But then if you look at my writings in the later part of December 16, you see me talk about, okay, that goal was done. Now we have to look at bigger things. I barely was able to manage $1 million in sales. Wait until you see what happens when I get into the $2 million range. When I start doing 1.5, 1.7, 1.8 in 2017, I really started having problems. Um, Inventory issues. Hell, I had stock I didn't know I had. Long-term storage fees. I was getting hit left and right with fees. Many years, everybody goes, "Oh, you should be rich." I'm not rich, guys. I make a nice income now, but I'm not rich. I made a lot of mistakes over the years that I want to, on these Flashback Friday things, I want to go back and talk about things that happened before. Um, that was a big turning point in how I did business. Um, when I left the Wholesale Formula Group, I started my own Facebook uh, group. I started a Facebook group, but it's never been designed where people come in and talk and chatter and reply a lot. I get a few replies here and there. Once in a while, I write something that people want to go back and forth a little bit with me, leave a few comments. But if you really look, I don't have many comments on my writings. It's more of a journal. You'll see me, as time goes on, I develop a way of writing to talk about my current problem. Like recently, I'm talking about, to give you an example of my writing, right now I'm talking about my pay-per-click and all the problems I have. Dirty Road Picker, thank you very much. He's saying interesting stuff. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I want to hope, I'm hoping that I can help people by looking at this in a different light. Instead of talking about how I did it, I want to talk about what was going on at the time I was doing it. What were the problems? Man, I could tell you, let me tell you about some of the problems I had at $1 million. I remember them as clear as day. Processing merchandise, warehouse space, all these things. If you're getting into the bigger numbers, you understand all this stuff. Warehouse space, processing, inventory control and management, advertising, labor cost, labor laws. Start crossing state borders. You got tax issues, and in 2018, 2019, I had some major tax issues come up and bite me. Almost put me out of business in 2019. The whole California sales tax issue came up. And because of my sales numbers, they came after me, and I ended up paying them, and I almost lost everything at that time. But these are problems that you see me work my way through. A lot of people think I'm crazy. A lot of people think that what I'm building and what I'm doing is a joke. A lot of people called me grandiose, that I had these big dreams that weren't reality. I do have a board of directors. My company is a corporation. I do have a paid board of directors. We meet once a year and discuss how I'm running the company. They have veto power. There's enough people that can override my decisions. I set that up because if something happens to me, if I die, and you see me talk about that in the coming years, I lose a brother. I talk about in my next. What happens if I die? I called my employees and said, I'm dead. You can't call me for answers, to see what was blowing up in my business. These are all things that I want to discuss on these Flashback Fridays. I think it'll give you a different perspective in business on Amazon. I know a lot of people would rather me say, well, this is what I did, A, B, C, D, step 1, 2, 3, 4. how I did it doesn't really apply to today. Um, how I did it at Christmas time, I ran around buying up Disney toys and uh, I can't even think. I bought up all kinds of stuff, and when I told somebody about it, they said, "Oh, that all that stuff is restricted." I would tell you things that aren't true now because if you're doing $200 a day, how about if you're only doing $100 a day on Amazon? I wouldn't know where to start to tell you how to grow that business because what I would tell you is to take your phone and scan and find new products. It's very hard to do that. I didn't know. I really didn't know until I walked around in a store with yeah, this is live. I didn't know. I did not know until I walked around with somebody on the phone and said, "Hey, I used to sell that product right there. Scan that." And they go, "We're restricted. We're restricted. We're restricted. We're restricted." He said I was restricted. He was restricted from selling the items that I sold every day that built my company. He couldn't sell them. That was hard. Um, that was very hard, guys. This was a long, it's only 4 years ago, but the times were a lot different. Can it still be done? Yes, I believe it still can be done. You have to focus different. You have to think different. I would suggest that watch people that they're doing more than you, learn systems and processes, and you know, I talk about in some of my writings how my VAs suck. No, my VAs didn't suck. My systems to work with my VAs sucked. It wasn't them, it was me. It was all me. But when I was going through it, I blamed it on them because to me it was simple. I look at something, it was simple to do. Why can't you do it? Because I didn't teach them right. I now have a VA that's the greatest thing in my life. I don't know what I would do without Alejandro. His name's Alejandro. I don't know what I would do without him. Thank you. Thank you. Sharon says I'm looking great. This is this is this is something I want to do. I want to go back. I want to dig through my writings. I want to find different problems I was having, um, like inventory management. How many people really talk about inventory management and what it takes to manage your inventory? How do you forecast out your sales? Uh, how do you know how much of a product to buy? If you don't have software, how do you do it? Can you manually figure out, oh, can I, or do I just guess a number? Well, I sold 6, so let me buy 20. That's not forecasting. That's gambling. And I did that. I sold 6, I bought 100. Um, I remember walking the floor in ASD, and I don't know if you remember them, but they had the light switches that turned on. It had the 2 LED lights. It was like the new thing. Well, in an RV, there's a lot of dark in the cabinets are dark and things like that. And I wanted some of these LED lights with the switch that you could put rechargeable batteries in, and I can reach up in this cabinet right here and grab one and show it to you. And the guy said to me, "Oh, I don't give out samples." And I said, How many do I have to buy to get that whole box from you?" He said, "I had to buy a pallet full." I threw my American Express card on his desk and said, "Okay, I'll take a pallet." And I'm taking this box with me. Um, I've done some stupid things. My ego got the better of me a few times. I thought I was going to eat them frickin' lights because I couldn't sell not a one. The hottest selling product at the time, and I couldn't sell one. Well, I was in such a rush on that listing, I went back and looked at the listing 3-4 months after I hadn't sold not a one of them. And I got a whole pallet of these frickin' things. And I had spelled light wrong. The LED light with a switch, every time I wrote light, it was LIHGT. So I spelled it totally wrong. So the search engines never found it. Eventually, I fixed it, redid some advertising, and they started selling like hotcakes. I actually bought 2 more pallets after that before they died off. That was a blessing from God. Definitely wasn't me, because I had no business buying a pallet of anything that I did no research on. I did not even look online to see how they were selling. That's probably the stupidest thing I've ever done when it comes to inventory. But inventory management's a big part of it. I had to learn how to manage money. I didn't know how to manage money. When I hit $1 million, $1,000 is peanuts. It's like 20 cents. Except for if you blow 20 cents 10 times, it's $2. If you blow $1,000 10 times, it's $10,000. It adds up very quickly. I didn't look at $300 items. I made a lot of mistakes. Money was an issue. It wasn't, when I hit that $1 million mark, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I really thought that if I sold $1 million in a single year, I'd be on Easy Street. And with Easy Street for my life, the business would be on Easy Street. I'd be instantly retired. And it wasn't. Guys, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, post them. Post your comments. I'm fine with that. I want to try and do this on a regular basis on Friday night. If you have a subject in my business you want me to talk to you about, I want to try and be as open as possible. Don't ask me what I sell. Don't ask me my profits. It depends on what part of my profit and loss sheet you want to look at for profits. There's so many different lines when it comes to profit. Are you talking about just product minus sales minus cost of goods is profit? No, because then you got Amazon fees. So, okay, I take my Amazon. Is that the profit line you want? Is it after advertising, after expenses, before my salary or after my salary? I am a corporation, so I must take a salary. I was just reading today. A lot of businesses were denied the PPP loan, the payroll protection loan. You know why they were denied? Because they're an S corporation and they did not take a salary through a payroll system. Because they did not take a paycheck through a payroll system, they were denied the PPP loan. I don't know if anybody lost their businesses over it. It was just something I was reading in the news today. But that's a shame, man, because you were trying to circumvent a system. You're not going to get money that you were entitled to help your business through a tough time. I've had a lot of misfortunes. People laugh at me because I keep building this as a standalone entity like Ford or Starbucks or any other large corporation that people own the stock of, but nobody actually owns the whole company. There is no owner of Ford. Who owns Ford? It's a publicly traded company that the stockholders own. There is a board of directors. Now you're getting in the technicalities, but there's a board of directors that guide that company along. I have tried to do that with my business for a long time now. I'm finally at a point where, you know, I've come a long ways. This week, in fact, it was this morning, I went in and I looked in my Amazon account and I was poking around in the inventory. I was looking for something in particular. My Christmas inventory is starting to come in from China. It'll be here in like 3 weeks. The first week of July, first 10 days of July, it starts to land in on the east coast of the United States from China. So I was looking for something in particular. I wanted to make sure it was ready and set up for when the product lands in the United States. There's 23 new products in my Amazon account that I had no idea that we had added. I did not authorize them. I did not find them. I did not add them. I did not order them. And I did not instruct anybody to do that. That's how a corporation works. It's independent of the owners. I am the owner of my company, but the company is to operate independent of me. A lot of people say, "Oh, I own an Amazon business." A lot of people are lying to themselves. You created a job that allows you to sell on Amazon. It's not a business. If you stop working, your business stops. And I'm not beating anybody up, because understand something. For years, I said I had a business on Amazon. And all I had was I had a 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week job that I drove myself to horrible health, and I did a lot of bad things to reach $1 million in sales in 2016. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope this, a few people commented. I hope as time goes on, you leave me a comment and say that you enjoyed this and you want to see more of this. If there's a particular area that you'd like me to talk about, if you know me and you remember a time where I was struggling, where I was doing really well. I mean, there's times I was doing really well. I was firing on all cylinders. I was, really hammering things. There was times that I wasn't keeping my eye on what was going on and had hired the wrong people, and I had a car stolen from me. I had thousands of dollars stolen from me. I had inventory stolen. I had people try to really jerk my business around. By the grace of God, thank you, Lord, I didn't lose everything. I had somebody steal my car and destroy somebody's property. When the cops came, they gave them my name, that I was the one driving. That became a big ordeal. I mean, so I didn't have really good security. RH says, you used to be in sales. I'd argue you still are. I am a salesman. You don't have to argue with me on that. I am a salesman. I love to sell. Most sales guys are brave and stubborn. Has this hurt you more or helped you? Or tell us the story how not ever hearing no has helped you. Most sales guys are brave and stubborn. I don't know that most sales guys are brave. I understand what you're saying. It's not brave. I think it's more confident. They're not afraid to ask for a sale or ask for a deal or approach a vendor or any of that. Hi, Bob from Montana. Never hearing no has helped you. I don't sell like that. I understand what you're saying. I do understand. I sold cars for many years, so the never hearing no, not taking no for an answer. Um, I got one for you. Just a real quick story. I was in at ASD, and I had walked up to a booth, and the first thing the guy said, now this is going back probably 2017, probably the early show in 2017 at ASD. I walked up, and my name badge had the name of the company, and he said, "Oh, you're an Amazon seller." I said, "Yes," and he said, "We don't sell to Amazon sellers." I said, "I bet you'll sell to me." And he chuckled and said, "No, I won't sell to you." I said, "But I don't want to sell your product on Amazon." His little ears perked up because he wanted to know what I had to offer that the last 25 Amazon sellers that were standing there with their phone, scanning their booth for just their profitable products were. I said, "I'm actually more interested in seeing what we can do about putting your product on eBay." Um, which got me in the door. We still talk. I see him. I've talked to him 100 times. I do sell some of his products, not a whole lot. I did start on eBay, and I did not put them on Amazon. And eventually, he said, "Why aren't you selling on Amazon?" I said, "Because in the beginning, we said I wouldn't sell on Amazon, and I'd only have them on eBay and Walmart.com, and I did those things." Being a sales guy has helped, but it does hurt too. I mean, by not taking no, sometimes I get a little aggressive, and it, it scares people off a little bit. I also make very bold statements to very large companies. I work with a company that sells to Walmart, the store, and they sell truckloads to the store. And they have an entire aisle, not a little shelf space. They have an entire aisle in Walmart. And I'm meeting the owner of that company, and he walked into my office, and I looked him dead in the eye and said, "When the fuck are you going to stop selling to Amazon.com? Because I can't make no money unless you stop selling to them." And I turned around and went back to work at my desk. And that's how I introduced myself to the guy. I didn't get up and shake his hand. I didn't say, "My name's John and yours." I did none of that. I just freaking hit that man between his eyes and knocked him for a loop. He did not know what to say. He took 2 steps back. He didn't know what to say. Turns out the guy's a salesman like me. He kind of did a little shuffle, got himself composed, and kind of came back at me. And I said to him, I said, "Listen, if we put a deal together, I'm going to be your number one guy." He thought I was nuts. Him and I are real close friends now. When we talk, we don't talk about, first of all, if he calls me and asks me about sales or something, he knows that I don't know. He knows he's got to call somebody else to get those answers. He calls me, we chit chat. We talk about my diet, that I lost weight. We talk about where am I living. We talk about, he's a huge Miami Dolphins fan, so we talk about the Miami Dolphins. He knows I can't stand sports, so he's always asking me about, have I watched any sports or anything. So sales can help you, but what the biggest problem I had with being a salesman, starting a company, was that as a salesman, you're trained that no matter what's going on, you need to make more sales. So when I started this company and I ran into money problems, like my cash flow, I didn't have enough cash at the end of the flow. to pay bills because I was waiting on the next payment because I was buying too much inventory and I wasn't saving to make the payments and doing the things that I don't even mess with the money anymore, guys. Somebody else handles my money. I always said, sell more. My answer to every problem, and you'll see this as I talk about 2017 and things that happened back then, my answer to everything was sell more. I don't have enough money, sell more. My inventory is low, sell more. The building is burning down around us. Okay, that's fine, sell more. That was my answer to everything. I have to put myself in the check sometimes now. COVID, this pandemic was a big thing. My sales dropped by 80%. And in the groups, everybody's saying, well, you got to, ship the product directly to the customer. What they didn't understand was my customer is businesses that were closed, that were told, you shut down, you can't do business, you can't buy, there's no need to buy product if you're not open. So they weren't buying from me. And then what I was able to sell, my inventory was jammed up in Amazon, so I didn't have the money from those sales to buy more inventory to even be able to send to customers. It was like the cash machine was going along nice and fine, la, 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 and then it just went, and it froze. It just stopped. And because of the size of the company, you can't pivot from selling widgets A because I order Christmas in December. My Christmas comes, I order Christmas in December. My Christmas comes in early July. So that money's all spent. That's all done. So when this pandemic hit, there was no pivot to mask. There was no pivot to hand sanitizer, which I know all these things are, forbidden now, but there was no pivoting to make a recovery. It just, my business stopped. There was no movement. There was no sales. There was no sales to send a product to the customer. And that's what people really didn't understand what happened during the pandemic for my business. But we're coming up on an hour. I wanted to try and keep this in an hour. First of all, I got to have dinner. Hey, never too old. How are you? Guys, I really appreciate you hanging around. I have a lot of stories. I've been doing it. This is my 13th year in business. I remember when when I was sleeping under the boardwalk going, this was going to happen. Covered in sand, because when you sleep in the sand, if you sleep in the sand for a long period of time, there's a breeze. Well, that breeze carries sand. That sand starts to cover you over. For those that wonder if what I say is really true, go stand under the boardwalk for a while and your shoes will get covered in sand without you moving. I've been doing this 13 years, and I'm going to tell you, I had no help when I started. For those that are new now, man, find yourself some good Facebook groups. Find yourself a mentor. I'm not saying pay for a mentor. Find somebody that you can ask questions to. Don't look for somebody like me. If you're doing $100 a day, don't come to me, because I wouldn't even know how to word an answer for you to be able to understand how to solve the problem you're having. Just like the problems I'm having now, I'm not going to go to somebody with small sales saying, hey, this is the problem I got. I got 5,000 square feet of warehouse at $8 a square foot. I'm looking at something that's 12,000 square feet, but it's $11 a square foot. What do you think? What problems did you run into when you switched from a medium-sized warehouse to a larger warehouse. These, you, the one piece of advice I'm going to leave you with right here is look at your circle of friends. You should have 5 people in your circle. Okay? You should have 2 people that you're trying to help, which are selling just below you. You should be trying to help them. What it does is it keeps your mind fresh about the problems that you had then that you are working on now. You should have 2 people selling about the same level you are. You're all working on the same types of problems at the same time, and you understand each other because you're at a certain level together at a certain time. Because what I went through at $1 million in 2016 in sales is different than if you're selling $1 million in 2020. Then there should be one person ahead of you that you can reach out to and try and learn from, and aspire to be. He's going to put you as one of the 2 people that he's trying to help. You see, this circle of friends is a big network of people, and your circle of friends will change over time. The people I dealt with in 2016, I love them dearly. I miss them so much. We used to do morning shows. We used to do a lot of things back then. The Reseller Wake Up, look it up on YouTube if you want to see some really laughs and giggles. Every show we ended with somebody yelling Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was big back then. This is what you should be doing. Network with people. And listen, if you screw up, I almost said a different word. If you screw up, own it. I come on here and I'm telling you all the mistakes that I made. It's because I own them, and I'm the one that's going to be able to correct them. If I don't own them, all I'm going to do is stand around and blame somebody. With that, guys, God loves you. I'm trying. Get off your ass and go to work. All right, guys, I'm off to make me some dinner. God bless.